The attic was silent except for the faint hum of a lullaby. 10 small voices carried the tune, fragile as moth wings. A candle guttered, spilling shadows across damp brick. Outside, rain gnawed at the roof, and somewhere a church bell struck, midnight. Boots thudded along cobblestones, measured, closing in. The sound of iron on leather belts, a door slammed below, the lullaby faltered. Silence bled into the room like smoke. Then a whisper, trembling, childlike. "Is she coming back?" No answer came. Only the echo of boots rising, step by step, toward the attic. London, 1900. The air was thick with soot and damp fog that clung to every alleyway. Factories hissed, orphanages overflowed, and newspapers spoke of progress while the streets reeked of poverty. Constable Edward Briggs leaned against a lamppost, spitting brown tobacco juice into the gutter. His uniform was faded, buttons missing their shine. A man, too, used to silence. His boots were cracked, but his eyes still caught everything. Beside him, Sister Margaret Doyle walked slowly, clutching her rosary so tightly the beads left red imprints on her palm. She was past 40, but her face bore the kind of tiredness only seen in those who had buried more children than they had saved. Briggs exhaled, watching the fog curl. "Another one gone," he muttered. "Not gone," Margaret corrected. Her Irish lilt carried grief like a hymn. "Taken." He eyed her. "You think every urchin that runs off is stolen?" Margaret stopped at the gutter. A child's toy horse lay broken in the muck, one leg snapped clean. She bent, lifted it with trembling hands and whispered, "They don't leave toys behind, Edward, they carry them to the grave." Briggs spat again. "Best not speak of graves. Folks say bad luck listens in the fog." They walked on, but Margaret's eyes stayed fixed on the cracks between cobblestones. Later, in the candlelit dormitory of St. Cecilia's orphanage, Margaret gathered the children for prayer. Thin bodies huddled on straw mats, eyes too wide for their age. One girl whimpered, clutching her blanket. "Tell us the truth, sister," a boy's voice piped up. "They say something walks the streets at night. Is it true?" Margaret's rosary clicked in her hand. "There are always shadows," she said softly. "But shadows can be fought with light." The boy's reply cut through the silence. "Then why do the lights always go out?" That night, the wind howled through broken windows. The faint creak of carriage wheels passed by the orphanage. A window shutter banged open. Margaret prayed louder, her voice shaking. She thought she saw a figure in black slip through the fog, watching. Briggs, making his nightly patrol nearby, paused as he heard a sound. A child's laugh cut short. He turned his lantern into the alley. Nothing, just smoke and rats. But in the dirt, a marble gleamed, round and green, like an eye staring back. Briggs pocketed it, his jaw tight. Margaret's voice haunted him. "Taken." The fog swallowed, his lantern glow as he moved on. Unaware that in the attic of a small seamstress shop just 2 streets away, a woman in black gloves whispered a lullaby, and a small boy's voice hummed back in trembling unison. The year was 1868. The workhouse reeked of bleach, sweat, and despair. Children lined up in silence, bowls in hand, waiting for ladles of thin gruel. The overseer's cane struck the floor, with every step, a reminder that silence meant survival. Agatha Wormwood was 6 years old, her hair a tangled black knot, her small fingers raw from scrubbing floors. She wore gloves even then, stitched from scraps of cloth, covering the scars of scalding water burns. Her father, Thomas Wormwood, had left her there. A man with a scar carved across his cheek, always smelling of gin, always carrying a brass pocket watch he sold one night for another drink. The memory still rang clear. "Papa," Agatha had whispered, tugging at his coat. "Don't leave us here." Thomas crouched, his voice slurred but sharp. "Life don't give nothing, girl. Best learn early. Survive or be swallowed." He turned, boots crunching on the gravel, leaving the 2 sisters staring at the workhouse gates. Clara, younger by 2 years, clutched Agatha's sleeve. Her skin was pale as parchment, her cough rattling her chest. She tied a red ribbon in her hair that day, the only color in a sea of gray rags. Inside the workhouse, Clara whispered to her sister each night, "Sing the song, Aggie, the one Mama used to sing." Agatha sang softly, voice quivering. "Hush now, little one. Shadows cannot stay. Hold the light inside till the break of day." The lullaby became their anchor. One winter, fever spread. Children dropped into silence one by one. Clara's turn came swift. Agatha sat by her mat, holding her hand through the night. "Promise me you'll remember me," Clara whispered, eyes glassy. "I promise," Agatha said fiercely. "Keep my ribbon, always." By dawn, Clara was gone. Agatha knotted the ribbon into her pocket, where it would remain for the rest of her life. Years passed. Agatha scrubbed, stitched, bled, but she survived. She learned that tears brought beatings, while silence earned food. By 12, she sewed faster than any child, needles flashing like weapons. One night, a girl beside her whispered, "Why do you wear gloves?" Agatha's answer was cold. "Because hands can betray you. If no one sees them, they can't be broken." The overseer's cane cracked against the table, silencing the dormitory, but Agatha's mind was already elsewhere. Each stitch she made, each song she hummed, each scar she hid beneath her gloves, she built a world where children would never be abandoned, where they would stay hers, bound by lullabies and ribbon. The fire of Clara's loss burned deep. Agatha Wormwood did not forget. She learned, she endured, and she began to imagine. In the silence of the workhouse nights, a girl forged into something, far sharper than her needles, whispering her vow in the dark. "No one will take them from me again." The year was 1885. London was swelling with factories and graves. The fog never lifted. Coal smoke clung to the lungs like a curse. Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. Her back was straight, her hair tied tight, her black gloves immaculate. By day, she worked as a seamstress, bent over candlelight, stitching until her eyes watered. The silver thimble on her finger clicked against each needle, sharp, rhythmic, like a metronome. She often tapped it against her teeth when thinking. In the evenings, she wandered the alleys near St. Cecilia's orphanage. Her eyes lingered on the children who played barefoot, their laughter thin, their ribs sharp against their skin. She hummed Clara's lullaby under her breath, watching, always watching. It was in those years she met Elias Crow. Elias was an undertaker, a man whose very hands smelled of iron and smoke from endless contact with coffins and ash. His coat was black, lined with dust, his voice a low murmur as though he spoke only to the dead. "You're too young to linger by graveyards," he told Agatha one evening, finding her at the cemetery gates. "I'm not here for the dead," she replied. He studied her, narrowing his eyes. "Then for what?" Agatha tilted her head. "To see how many children this city swallows in a single week." Elias smirked, though it held no joy. "The answer is more than you'll ever count. Babies, little ones gone before their bones harden." She didn't flinch. Instead, she asked, "And where do they go, Elias? Who remembers them?" The undertaker paused, then placed a nail against the coffin lid he was sealing. "The ground remembers. The ground always remembers." From then on, Elias allowed her to linger. He even taught her the quiet rituals of death, the hymns no priest spoke aloud, the ways pauper graves were hidden beneath the city's hunger for progress. She listened, storing every secret. Her second confidant came by chance. Mary Finch, a widow of 35, lived in the same boarding house as Agatha. Mary had a soft laugh, always smelling faintly of lavender and dust. She noticed how Agatha lingered by the children in the courtyard. "You'd make a good mother," Mary said one evening as they shared tea. Agatha's gloves tapped against the cup. "Would I? The world doesn't think so." "Why not?" Agatha's eyes darkened. "Because I wasn't born with money. Because my father sold his watch for gin, and my sister died with a ribbon in her hair. Because women like me are seen as barren, even when our arms ache to hold something warm. Mary reached across the table, her fingers brushing Agatha's sleeve. "Don't let them tell you what you are." Agatha smiled faintly, but her voice was iron. "I won't. I'll take what I need." For a short while, a different possibility flickered. Dr. Henry Blackwell entered her life. Physician, 30, hair slicked back, eyes sharp as glass. He was precise in everything, from his polished shoes to his cold bedside manner. Agatha first met him while mending sheets at the charity hospital. She watched him set a child's broken arm without flinching, his hands firm, efficient. Later, she cornered him in the hallway. "You heal children." He glanced at her gloves. "Sometimes. Most are beyond healing by the time they're brought here." Her voice softened. "I want to learn. I want to be near them." Blackwell's mouth tightened. "You? No, you are unfit." The word cut like a blade. Her voice trembled. "Why? Because I'm poor? Because I don't look the part?" He leaned close, his words dripping poison. "Because you're barren, Miss Wormwood. A woman cursed by God himself." Agatha froze. Her thimble tapped against her teeth, metallic and sharp. "You'll regret saying that." Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. Blackwell walked away without a glance back. That night, Mary found Agatha at the boarding house window staring at the orphanage across the street. "What did he say to you?" Mary asked gently. Agatha's eyes burned. "That I cannot be. A mother." Mary placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me be your family." But Agatha shook her off, voice hollow. "Family dies. Children are taken. Unless you take them first." From then on, her visits to the orphanage grew longer. She hummed Clara's lullaby, and some children hummed back, drawn to the sound. She gave them scraps of bread, tiny toys, sewn from leftover cloth. They began to trust her. In her room, she opened a leather ledger. With red ink, she wrote names: orphans, street children, the forgotten. Beside each, she scribbled notes. At the margins, she wrote fragments of lullabies, verses twisted and restitched. Her silver thimble gleamed under the candlelight. Her sister's ribbon lay folded in the ledger's center, marking the first name. Agatha Wormwood whispered to the darkness, "They will not be abandoned. Not again. Not while I breathe." And the city, choking on fog and soot, did not notice the promise taking root in her heart. The year was 1897. The fog that night pressed thick as wool, swallowing lamps and carriages alike. In the narrow lane behind the seamstress shop, a boy crouched, rolling marbles across the cobblestones. His name was Samuel Ashcroft, 8 years old. He stuttered when nervous, and he always carried his marbles in a small pouch tied to his belt. "Samuel," his sister Lucy whispered from the doorway of their cramped home, "come inside before the fog eats you." Just one more game," he called, his laughter carrying thin in the damp air. That was when Agatha's shadow fell over him. Her voice was soft, honeyed. "That's a fine set of marbles you've got there." Samuel looked up, startled. A tall woman stood above him, her black gloves gleaming faintly. She held a basket of bread under her arm. "You like marbles, don't you?" she asked. He nodded, clutching one green marble between his fingers. "My brother used to play," she continued, crouching low, her silver thimble catching the lamplight. "But he lost them all. Do you know why?" Samuel shook his head. "Because he had no one to teach him the game. Do you want me to show you a trick?" The boy hesitated. His sister's voice echoed faintly from the doorway. "Samuel." Agatha smiled, gentle, practiced. She drew a loaf of bread from her basket, tore it in half and offered it. The smell of warm crust and yeast filled the air. Samuel's hunger betrayed him. He reached. "Good boy," Agatha whispered, slipping her hand over his. "Come with me. I'll show you the trick." The lullaby slipped from her lips, soft as smoke. "Hush now, little one, shadows cannot stay." Samuel's eyes glazed, entranced. He stood, clutching her hand. The marble pouch dangled loosely at his side. Lucy's voice rose, urgent now. "Samuel, come back!" But the fog swallowed her cry. Agatha led him into the alley, her song weaving through the air. His marbles spilled, rolling across the stones, one green eye staring back from the gutter. The next morning, Lucy burst into St. Cecilia's orphanage, her cheeks streaked with tears. "Sister Margaret, he's gone. My brother's gone." Margaret knelt, gripping the girl's shoulders. "Tell me what you saw." Lucy sobbed. "A woman. Gloves. She sang." Margaret's eyes darkened. "What song, child?" Lucy hummed, trembling. "The lullaby." Margaret's rosary beads froze in her hand. Constable Briggs was summoned, though his expression showed more weariness than urgency. He rubbed his jaw. "Children wander. They'll turn up. Always do." Margaret slammed her hand on the table, startling him. "This is no wandering, Edward. A woman took him. A woman in black." Briggs spat into the ashtray, his patience thin. "We've no proof, no name, just the ramblings of a frightened girl." Lucy pulled a single marble from her pocket, holding it out. He dropped this. He would never leave it behind. The constable pocketed it slowly, unease creeping into his features. Margaret whispered, almost to herself, "They don't run. They're taken." That night the streets buzzed with whispers. Another child gone. Fog swallows them. "No, a woman. They say she sings." Agatha sat by her attic window, Samuel asleep in the cot behind her, clutching a cloth doll she had sewn for him. She hummed Clara's lullaby under her breath, her gloves stroking his hair. Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. She gazed out into the fog, eyes glinting. "He didn't run," she murmured to herself. "He didn't beg. He followed the song." And in that moment, Agatha Wormwood was no longer the seamstress in black gloves. She was something else. Something the city would soon name with dread. The child collector. The fog had not yet lifted when Inspector Harold Whitaker arrived in Whitechapel. He was a man in his 40s, sharp-eyed, his boots polished though the streets would ruin them in minutes. He smelled of pipe smoke and peppermint, his words measured, his presence heavy. Briggs handed him the marble. "Only proof we've got." Whitaker rolled it between his fingers, the green glint catching in the lamplight. "A boy doesn't drop his favorite marble unless he's dead or taken." Sister Margaret crossed herself. "I told you it's a woman, she sings." Whitaker studied her, unimpressed. "London is full of women, sister. I'll need more than shadows and songs." Margaret's voice broke. "How many children must vanish before you listen?" Whitaker pocketed the marble. "As many as it takes for me to catch her." Meanwhile, Lucy Ashcroft, only 12, sat at the window of her cramped home, her brother's remaining marbles spread on the sill. She polished each one, whispering to them as if Samuel could hear, "I'll find you. I'll bring you home." Her father drank in silence, too broken to act. Her mother wept, too weary to speak. Lucy clenched the last marble in her palm like a weapon. Agatha Wormwood was already preparing. In her attic, she sewed tiny toys stuffed with straw and scraps of lace. She wrote names in her ledger, each marked with red ink. Next to Samuel's, she drew a small circle, her own symbol of possession. At the center of the ledger, Clara's ribbon lay folded, crimson as blood. She hummed as she stitched, tapping, her thimble against her teeth. One evening, Lucy wandered near Agatha's shop, clutching Samuel's marble. She paused, her breath catching. Through the window, she thought she saw movement, small like a child. She stepped closer, pressing her nose to the glass. Agatha's figure appeared suddenly, her gloved hand drawing the curtain closed. Lucy stumbled back, heart hammering. She ran to the street corner, whispering, "Samuel, I saw you." But when she returned with Briggs, the shop stood dark and silent. Briggs shook his head. "Nothing here, girl. Don't let grief eat you alive." Lucy clenched her fists. "She has him, I swear it." Not all saw Agatha as a monster. Mrs. Eliza Penbrook, a wealthy socialite draped in silks, entered the seamstress shop one foggy afternoon. Her perfume was thick, her smile practiced. "You do fine work, Miss Wormwood," she purred, fingering the hem of a lace dress. Agatha's gloves smoothed the fabric. "You didn't come for lace," Mrs. Penbrook's eyes gleamed. "No, I came for arrangements. A childless woman has few options, but a clever woman always finds a way." Agatha's voice was low, almost tender. "Children are not ornaments to be bought." Mrs. Penbrook leaned closer, whispering, "And yet you sell them all the same." Agatha said nothing. She simply tapped her thimble once against her teeth and smiled. By winter, rumors spread like wildfire. Children claimed they heard singing in the fog. Parents kept their little ones inside, bolting shutters, but still, more vanished. "Inspector," Whitaker ordered nightly patrols. Lucy followed them, determined, marble clenched in her palm. And somewhere in the labyrinth of alleys, Agatha whispered to her ledger, "Soon, all of them will be mine." The night of the raid came cloaked in fog so thick the gas lamps flickered like dying stars. Whitechapel seemed to hold its breath. Inside her attic, Agatha Wormwood lit a single candle. 10 small figures huddled in the shadows, eyes wide, their breaths shallow. The room reeked of mildew, damp wood, and the iron tang of rusted chains. She moved among them, smoothing hair, straightening collars. Her voice floated like silk. "Hush, my darlings. Tonight the world will come for us, but they will never take you. You are mine. Mine forever." A boy whimpered, "I want my mum." Agatha crouched low, her gloved hand cupping his cheek. "Your mother sold you to hunger and silence. I offer you eternity." The candle guttered as though in protest. Outside, boots struck the cobblestones. Inspector Whitaker led his men through the mist, lantern swinging. Lucy followed at the rear, clutching Samuel's marble. Whitaker noticed her. "You shouldn't be here." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "She has my brother. I'm not leaving." Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. Whitaker held her gaze, then nodded once. "Stay behind me, no matter what you see." The shop door creaked open under the weight of a crowbar. The air inside smelled of mothballs, candle wax, and something fouler. Sour milk, decay. "Briggs," muttered. "God save us." Whitaker raised his lantern. Upstairs. The stairs moaned with each step, as if the house itself begged them to turn back. From above, a lullaby drifted, soft, haunting. "Sleep, child. Sleep. The angels guard your soul," Lucy whispered. "That's her." They burst into the attic. The lantern light caught pale faces. Children, thin as shadows, shackled by wrists and ankles. Some stared blankly, others cried out. And there, at the center, Agatha Wormwood, her dress black as soot, gloves shining like wet leather. Her eyes gleamed with fury and triumph. Whitaker's voice cut through the air. "Agatha Wormwood, you are under arrest for the abduction of these children." She laughed, low and sharp. "Arrest? You fools. You come to tear families apart. I created one." Lucy pushed past the men, pointing. "Samuel! Samuel!" A boy lifted his head. Her brother. His face hollow, but his eyes alive. "Lucy?" His voice cracked, fragile. Agatha stepped between them. "No. He is mine now." Whitaker drew his revolver. "Step aside, madam." Agatha's smile curdled. "Shoot me, Inspector, and you'll doom them all. They live because of me. Without me, they starve." Lucy shouted, "You're lying. He's my brother." She lunged, trying to reach Samuel, but Agatha's hand shot out, gripping Lucy's arm with a strength that belied her frail frame. "Bold little mouse," Agatha hissed. "You think you can steal what I've claimed?" Lucy struggled, her marble clutched tight. "He's not yours." With sudden fury, she smashed the marble against Agatha's wrist. The woman shrieked, stumbling back, gloves tearing. Beneath them, her hands were raw, scarred, and bloodied. The children gasped. The monster was revealed. Whitaker barked, "Men, free the children!" Chains rattled, bolts snapped. Briggs lifted Samuel into his arms. Other officers carried the little ones toward the stairs. But Agatha was not done. She snatched a hidden knife from beneath her skirt, the blade glinting in candlelight. Her voice rose wild. "If I cannot have them, then none shall." She lunged toward Samuel. Lucy screamed, "No!" Whitaker fired. The shot cracked like thunder in the cramped attic. Agatha staggered, clutching her chest, her eyes wide with disbelief. Blood bloomed, dark across her dress. She fell back against the ledger, knocking it to the floor. Pages fluttered, names scrawled in red ink staring up like accusations. But even as her life drained, Agatha smiled through her teeth, blood bubbling at her lips. "You think you've saved them? Oh no, they will never forget me. I live, in their dreams, in their fears. I am their lullaby." Her voice weakened but carried like poison. "You can chain a body, but you can't chain a song." With that, she slumped, candlelight flickering across her vacant eyes. Silence fell heavy. The children whimpered. Lucy dropped to her knees, clutching Samuel's hand. "It's over. You're safe." Whitaker lowered his revolver, his jaw tight. "God forgive us." Briggs crossed himself. "Some things should never be remembered." But Lucy looked at the ledger, crimson names glaring from the floor. Her voice was steady. "No, the world will remember. It has to." The officers led the children out into the night. The fog parted as they stepped into the lamplight, their thin bodies like ghosts returning from the grave. Neighbors gathered, murmurs rising into shouts, tears, and prayers. Some called Agatha a witch. Others spat her name like a curse. Lucy held Samuel close, her marble still warm in her palm. Behind them, the attic stood silent, except for the faintest echo of a lullaby drifting from the shadows. Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. Sleep, child, sleep. And then, nothing. The trial came swift. London demanded spectacle, and the courts delivered. Agatha Wormwood's body lay cold in the morgue, yet her name filled every broadsheet. They painted her as a monster, a witch, a corrupter of the innocent. The Gazette called her the Hag of Whitechapel. But among the whispers in taverns and markets, another tale spread, that she had given abandoned children shelter when no one else would. The truth rotted in between. Lucy sat in the gallery, her hands clenched in her lap. Samuel leaned against her shoulder, eyes dull, as if he hadn't yet returned from the shadows of the attic. Whitaker testified first, his uniform crisp, his voice steady. She lured children with promises of food and warmth. She kept them chained, hidden, and named them hers. It was calculated, it was cruel. The judge, powdered wig towering, nodded solemnly. And the children, what state were they found in? Whitaker's jaw tightened. Starved, scarred, but alive. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Later, Briggs took the stand. He fidgeted, with his hat, eyes lowered. "Beggin' pardon, my lord, but I saw the ledger myself. Pages of names. Some scratched out, some still waitin'. She weren't just keepin' 'em. She was choosing who lived and who died." A gasp swept the room. When it was Lucy's turn, the court fell into silence. She rose, trembling, clutching her marble. "She took my brother. She told him he was hers. She told me I was too late." Her voice cracked but grew louder. And if we let her be forgotten, she wins again." The judge leaned forward. "And what do you ask of this court, child?" Lucy's eyes burned. "That no one sells their child for bread again. That no one looks away when children vanish. That we speak their names." The gallery erupted with sobs, shouts, applause. But the law could only do so much. With Agatha dead, the court sentenced her remains to be buried in an unmarked grave, her house to be burned, her name struck from parish records, a woman erased. Outside, the crowd cheered as flames consumed her shop. Black smoke coiled into the sky, carrying with the smell of old wood, mothballs, and something far fouler. Samuel clutched Lucy's hand tighter. "I can still hear her song." Lucy pulled him close. "She can't hurt us anymore." But in the distance, the lullaby seemed to echo on the wind. Weeks passed. Inspector Whitaker visited Lucy and Samuel in their small flat. He brought bread, milk, a fresh coat for the boy. Samuel stared at the gifts with suspicion. Lucy broke the silence. "Do you think it's over?" Whitaker sighed, rubbing his temples. "The woman is gone, but hunger, poverty, despair, they're still here. Another will rise, they always do." Lucy frowned. "Then what was the point?" Whitaker met her eyes. For once his sternness cracked. "The point is that your brother is alive, that you fought. That matters, even if the world forgets," Samuel whispered. "I don't want to remember." Whitaker crouched, his voice soft. "You don't have to, lad, but your sister will. She'll carry it for you." Months later, Whitechapel children still vanished. Some blamed workhouses, others whispered of gangs. But in dark corners, when a child strayed too far, parents hissed the warning, "Come back, or Agatha Wormwood will take you." The woman erased became a legend reborn. Lucy grew quieter. Nights she would wake to Samuel's screams. Sometimes he spoke in sleep, mumbling her lullaby in Agatha's cracked voice. Lucy would hold him, stroking his hair. "It's just a dream. She's gone." But when she closed her own eyes, she too heard it. "Sleep, child, sleep." The melody stuck like thorns. One evening, Whitaker visited again. His uniform was gone, replaced by plain clothes. His shoulders sagged with weariness. Agatha Wormwood was 23 now. "They've reassigned me. Too much noise around the Wormwood case. The Crown wants it buried." Lucy's anger flared. Buried? After all those children? He stared into his cup of tea. That's how London survives. By forgetting what doesn't fit. Lucy's voice sharpened. "Then I won't forget. Not ever." Whitaker gave a faint smile, almost proud. "Good, because the world needs someone to remember." Years later, when Samuel grew into a man, he never spoke of Agatha again. He married, worked the docks, raised children of his own. Yet whenever he heard a lullaby, his hands trembled. Lucy never married. She became a seamstress, her needle moving like clockwork, but her nights belonged to memory. She collected scraps of paper, names of missing children, stories whispered in alleys. Her own ledger, one that sought justice, not possession. And though the Wormwood house was gone, ashes buried under cobblestone, Lucy swore she could sometimes smell the faint trace of mothballs and candle wax drifting in the wind. Narration closes in sharp final beats. History tried to erase her. The court burned her name, but shadows cling to places where light dares not go. Some called her a witch, others a savior. Children called her mother. The truth? She was hunger, given form. Agatha Wormwood is gone, but the song remains. A child's voice hums the lullaby, faint and chilling, as the screen fades to black. The story of Agatha Wormwood is more than crime and punishment. It is a reminder that when hunger rules, even love can be twisted into chains. London buried her name, but the echoes of her lullaby still haunt the alleys of Whitechapel. Here on the Slave Resistance, we uncover the forgotten battles, the silenced voices, and the shadows history tried to erase. If this story moved you, share it, so their voices are never buried again. And remember, the past is never dead. It waits, watching, in the dark. This was the Slave Resistance, where history bleeds into legend. Agatha Wormwood was 23 now,